It's been a long road dating all the way back to 2012. We kicked this second season of the D2L off in the early weeks of December just to get things rolling. January, we began to get some steam on through to February and into March. The teams shook out the group stage and 4 teams emerged. Team Liquid, Fnatic, Dignitas, and Empire. Empire, the defending champions, knocked off by Liquid in our first round matchup. Dignitas put it on Fnatic and sent them to meet the Russians in the lower bracket. Empire gave Fnatic the boot, but they were quickly booted out as well as Liquid, dropping down to the lower bracket after facing Dignitas earlier today, ended their streak and their reign as champions. Now, the grand finals, best of 5, Liquid versus Dignitas here at the D2L, powered by RaidCall, an old North American grand finals. I'm AC, joined by Draskell for the broadcast, and I'll tell you what, man, let's, hashtag-based casters, whatever. I'm just happy to have such talented teams in our grand final, and really, I don't think anyone would have expected this. Most people, myself included, when asked leading up to the D2L playoffs, who do you think is going to have the best chance to win it all? My answer would have been, and up until they were knocked out, was Fnatic. Liquid, though, and Dignitas showing up and stunning the world right from the get-go.
Dignitas has just played unbelievably throughout the playoffs. Every single game I see them, they very seldom make any mistakes. And in the games that they are behind, I almost think they're better at playing from behind than they are playing from ahead. I mean, take the last time these two teams met today, when in the second game, Liquid were so unbelievably ahead for 25 to 30 minutes straight. Dignitas just turtle it out. They managed to sneak a Roshan away from a team that is sitting on their doorstep. I mean, that is like the stuff that legendary teams are made out of, and I think Dignitas are probably on their way to becoming one of those teams. So like you had said, both teams definitely deserved of this particular finals matchup, and I couldn't be more excited.
We can already see Liquid grabbing up the first pick Prophet. Don't see that too often. But the funny thing is, and you and I have kind of talked about it a bit, is Prophet is making his way back in a big way. I actually saw a ban Prophet in the first ban phase not too long ago, and Prophet picked up first, followed by the Gyrocopter. Liquid, of course, has a Bulba, who is very good on Prophet, but if it is going to be Bulba, there's one thing that you can say about Bulba on the Nature's Prophet. It's chest out Dota. Usually, you see an early pick Prophet for Liquid, it means they want to run aggression, and they want to run it pedal to the metal. Dignitas, though, going Team Purple. We got to see Team Purple in action a while ago. Remember that. I can't remember if it was Dignitas or not. But Darkseer, Luna, and Bane, their first 3 pickups.
Obviously, some early game tower pushing potential in the Luna. Bane is always a very stable lane support. But so far on the side of Dignitas, not much potential for moving around the map. Kind of stability is the name of the game for them right now. The last time they played against Team Liquid, I would say they picked a little bit more risky, but then again, they were the winner's bracket and they had the opportunity to come back. But now everything is on the line. Dignitas come in this matchup 1 game ahead because, of course, they did come in through the winner's bracket, whereas Team Liquid had to just take out Empire to get back to where they are right now. But still, it's a little bit strange to me to see Dignitas taking a very traditional approach to this particular game, because up until the last couple of series, they've been playing a couple of unorthodox lineups, and the way that they actually lane it too is very uncommon. Take, for example, the game that we had a chance to watch the other day, where they ended up putting a Darkseer and basically Way2's Prophet against a solo Puck in the bottom lane. They ended up just completely dominating the lane. They are very, very flexible. They come in and they know exactly what they need to do and when they need to do it. Team Liquid, on the other hand, and speaking of unorthodox picks, we got to see an Ogre Magi and a Juggernaut out of them the last game. So both teams, I think, are going to pull out all the punches here, go for the stuff that they know the best, and give us like the best possible show we can get.
Already looking at Team Dignitas' lineup, I'll tell you what they might end up doing, and I really like their draft because of this. They could very easily run an offensive tri-lane that is very, very strong with these heroes, or they could just sit back and farm up the Luna and say, that's fine, let's get Bane and Luna in particular off to a good start. But Bane with his Enfeeble, and we talked a lot about this in our previous series, Bane is just such an unbelievable pain in the butt for Gyrocopter, and it makes it even harder for him. And we saw that towards the end. Well, we talked about it. We didn't actually see it because he had an Ogre Magi who was able to bloodlust him. But in our last series, we talked at length about Gyrocopter being a peak and valley kind of a hero. He peaks whenever he has maxed out Flat Cannon and Rocket Barrage. And the Flat Cannon, not even so much for doing damage in the early stages, but he can push really well with it and so on and so forth. Then he kind of valleys out when he's looking to get up his survivability items. He needs to make a choice between survivability in a BK Beard. Does he want to get up early damage like a Shadow Blade and what have you? And there's a way you can capitalize on that very, very easily, but then he comes back as a true hard carry later on with flag cannon once he gets up 1 or 2 big damage items. But when you're talking about Bane's ability to not only lock him down with Fiend's Grip, but if you can just get your Enfeeble off on the gyro before he's able to pop any magic immunity, it cannot be dispelled by magic immunity. It makes it very hard for him to defend the base and very hard for him to just be that anchor right-click damage dealer that you want when you need it around 25, 30, 35 minutes in.
That's pretty much the strength of just Bane in general.
Yep.
The ability to negate your hard carry is pretty much the best way that you can possibly take the late game fights because they're the ones who do the most amount of damage. But for Team Liquid, they have a Puck, they have a Nature's Prophet that can supplement that damage output that could be negated by something like a Enfeeble. And sorry if you heard that, but people are throwing things in the kitchen. So either way, Dignitas, they got 3 incredibly strong core heroes so far. Bane obviously being one of the 2 supports that they're going to need. And then Luna obviously going to be the hard carry role. But the thing for Liquid right now is that I have a little bit of a bias towards their composition just because of the mobility and the fact that they have a dedicated initiator in Puck. We haven't seen what mid Dignitas are going to go for, but TA is banned out, so Sneaking is not going to get his hands on that hero that he had so much success with yesterday when we had a chance to watch him play that. And that means that Korok's Puck is likely to have a pretty easy time in this middle lane unless they're able to get something perhaps like a Queen of Pain coming from Dignitas.
Magnus going to be banned down by Liquid, so wanting to get away from any real team fight potential that Dignitas could pour on. Magnus plus Luna is crazy strong anyway, even though BKB does dispel the Empower. Just having Luna, basically a Magnus and a Luna guarantees that not only can you push like hell, you can fight before you get a BKB. It makes it a lot more viable to go something like a Drums Yasha, even Shadow Blade build instead of rushing out the BKB after Drums and that sort of an approach. And more importantly, lets her start to take a lot of Ancient stacks a lot earlier. And you can see Lunas get out of control basically just by falling back, sitting near their Ancient stack, and consistently bouncing from lane to Ancient. So taking the Magnus out, a real good ban out there from Liquid. TA and Warlock, more team, well, TA not so much team fight. Warlock, that counter initiation, counter punch that we've talked at length about, and TA would have worked well in their lineup. Queen of Pain is available in terms of mids. I really like Liquid's mobility based on what I see, and there's a lot of mobility on both sides. Darkseer with Surge, Luna, and the way she tends to build tends to be very, very fast. Phase boots, often the choice. Usually you'll see something like a Yasha, Drums, and so on and so forth. But the reach of Puck and the global +1 the Nature's Prophet is going to give you. Going to allow Liquid, and this is, more and more, this has become a theme, I think, for Liquid. They like to pick lineups where if they can execute it, it's much better than, it's not an easy lineup to execute, but if you do execute it, you get a big advantage.
I think that's kind of something that they excel at, though.
Yeah,
at the same
totally
time.
agree.
Like the execution is what makes both of these teams actually very, very good. I mean, Team Liquid were able to get a gigantic advantage over Dignitas, who have been just rolling throughout the entire playoffs. And the fact that Dignitas were able to come back at all in that second game was nothing short of astounding.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that game to go in Dignitas' favor at all. But they take an Enigma here, and they're against a hero who basically, well, now they have an interrupt through BKB. They're going to have the swap for that if they absolutely need it. And then Puck, they have the coil, they have the waning rift, but once he gets that BKB, then just going to have to stand in a really good position most of the time to ensure that the black hole doesn't just end the fight. And the last time we had a chance to watch Way2 play Enigma, I'll be honest, he didn't have the best game.
No.
It was kind of like yeah, he got blown up a couple of times by Korok and the Nyx bomb in that particular match, and he didn't really have that many black holes, but the ones that he did land were massive. Like, they were clutch black holes that ended up getting high priority kills, and that's really all you need out of your Enigma.
Well, Team Purple interrupted. Thought we were going to have an all-grape team. Instead, they got to throw out the orange Beastmasters. So, Enigma Beastmaster, that's already a lot of team fight in terms of just pure, not necessarily, it's AoE, obviously. And Beastmaster, though, just the way they tend to synergize. Beastmaster makes for great counter-initiation. Enigma makes for great initiation and counter-initiation as well. Darkseer being able to vacuum into a black hole following her primal roar from Beastmaster, certainly going to be excellent. And Liquid's team reminds me a bit of Empire's last time. Like, they're very grab baggish. You know what I mean? They have a little with everything, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It just means, again, that if Liquid can execute right now, when you look at Dignitas' lineup, they've got late game, they've got pretty solid lanes, they've got their AoE, so they're pretty well covered. But it's all focused on the idea of fighting 5-on-5 for the most part. I mean, you can say they can push with Enigma and on the back of Glaze from Luna, but more than anything, their lineup seems to be built just for the idea of getting ahead in farm, taking map control, and looking to take fights as quickly and efficiently as they possibly can. Liquid has push. They have split push. They have mobility. They have initiation and counter initiation. They're much more spread out on where their skills are. But if they can get the most out of every aspect of their lineup, I feel like that theirs could actually be a little stronger than Dignitas's. Their Dignitas's is way up there, too.
It's a really strange lineup from Liquid, and like you were saying, the name of the game for them is just balance. They have actually every single aspect of the team. Some teams excel at some things, and then they have weaknesses. Like, for instance, Dignitas, they don't really have an initiator.
Right.
I mean, you can apparently get a blink on the Beastmaster, or you can get a blink on Way 2 and try to play it that way. But I think what's much more likely to happen is that we're going to see a Mecha on Enigma and then potentially the Blink Beastmaster just to give them something. But maybe Dignitas doesn't care about the initiation. Maybe they're just thinking that Liquid are going to be playing the aggressors, at least in terms of pushing. They know they're going to have a Chen at their disposal and a Nature's Prophet, who are pretty much mostly about getting some early game dominance in either the small skirmishes or just by the way of getting towers down. So if you can use the same ideology in picking a Warlock, I mean, obviously it was banned, but the whole idea is they want to walk into you. So that's probably what's going to end up happening. I think Liquid are really the ones who want to try to apply pressure here. Venge is fantastic in the early game. She gives you that extra minus armor coming out from Wave of Terror, bonus damage from the Vengeance Aura, and of course Magic Missile being a very nice single target stun that does a pretty good amount of damage, and then of course Swap. So Liquid, incredibly balanced lineup. Dignitas, though, they have the potential to get good ultimates off and just end a fight straight away. And that's one thing that Liquid always has to be cautious of.
Taking a look at the way they're going to lane this out, I mean, it would seem fairly well obvious that you're going to have your Gyro, your Venge, and then your Chen in the defensive tri-lane, Puck in mid, Prophet possibly back in the backside of the woods or maybe in the off lane if he feels like taking his chances. On the side of Dignitas, defensive tri-lane with Luna, Enigma, and the Bane, Darkseer. And then, who was their other hero? Completely forgot. Completely zoned out. It was Beastmaster, so probably a Beastmaster mid.
The Beastmaster could potentially be mid here, and I think it actually will end up being. I guess Sneaking is going to be playing it, so no real surprise. Universe, he's going to be going up against a lane that's going to either have some push potential, and by some I mean the Chen is likely going to be farming in a defensive position, so there's a good chance that that lane could be under some siege. But they could also just put Way 2 in the jungle as well, have Universe go up against that lane and try to counter push as best they can, or they can do what they did a couple days ago and just double jungle. And that actually worked out pretty darn well, because they're able to basically rotate between 2 or 3 camps apiece and essentially just spread the farm evenly and ultimately get a little bit ahead in terms of the golden experience department. But I'm excited for this game. I really like Liquid's lineup, actually. I think if they play it properly, it's going to be very difficult for Dignitas to react to them.
And looks like Gianni giving us the rundown text-wise. Is that for our hearing-impaired viewers? I could tell them that, Gianni. I covered all that during the draft. Don't worry about it, brother. It's okay. I'm just poking some fun. I think we're all ready to let off. I won't say let off a little steam. When you're at the end, the grand finals, like right now, for the first time in however many months, this is where we get to just say it's all fun from here on out. Because, you know, trying to get through the broadcast, trying to make sure everyone's happy, the viewers are pleased, we get through our giveaways, trying to keep the teams happy, cater to their time concerns and everything else. We've reached the final match. This is the last match of the D2L Season 2, and we can all kind of let our hair down. And that's what, you know, Gianni letting folks know he's excited to be here. I'm excited to be here. And yes, for those who are tuning in, this is game number 1 of our grand finals for season number 2. Dignitas has a 1-game advantage, which isn't reflected at the top because the settings were not changed, so sorry about that. But Dignitas with a 1-game advantage because they are coming from the winner's bracket with Liquid coming from the lower bracket. This will be a best-of-5 showdown, and it will begin right now. So let's run through our lineups while we have a chance. It looks like, yeah, I mean, some Treant's going to be nightmared because, hey, why not? Just trying to lock them down, and they actually will prevent the creep pull. That's actually really, really good for them. No, he got 2 of them. But I don't think it's going to matter. Look at this. This is so cool. Trapped him in like this. So now that creep pull basically going to be more or less negated. And yeah, how are we going to be able to make it right back in and farm? So very well executed. Just a little thing, not game-changing, but certainly a nice little way to keep Prophet a little further off of farm and a little further behind in levels. But let's look who's on who. Way 2 going to be back on Enigma. Struggled last time he handled the hero. Looking to have a better performance this time. Fogged playing on Bane. Darkseer going to be played by Universe. Luna will be farmed by Owie 2000. And Sneaking, as anticipated, will be on the Beastmaster there in mid. TC going to be farming up our Gyrocopter. Puck going to be handled mid against the Beastmaster. He's played by Korok once again today. Fluff and IX Mike playing our Chen and our Venge, and they're under smoke, so we're going to stick with them for a moment. And this is a very early gank. I mean, 3-4 minute ganks, not all that rare, and this is exactly how they go down at 3 or 4 minutes, but having especially the Satyr. If he had a Centaur, maybe I'd understand it a little bit more, but they're just flat going to go for it, and Sneaking's in the wrong part of town. He's going to have to take off down the river now with Puck's reach because of the orb. He's going to be able to get on top of him, and the body blocking somewhat effective. No, he managed to get along the edge. Here comes Universe to try and help him out. There's a stun from Venge. Fluff is still there. The Satyr's pursuing him out. The Satyr's not. He's going to have his orb here in just about a second, and he will throw it out, but not nearly enough as the bottle's there to get Sneaking back into fighting shape. So, early aggression from Liquid comes up wanting.
That hurts Liquid a lot more than it hurts Dignitas. Sure, they had way too. They had Universe rotate over just to be safe. But at the end of the day, that's a Chen. I mean, a Chen wasting his time not getting the extra points in the Holy Persuasion to make sure he can get 2 or 3 creeps to potentially push the top tier 1. That does hurt them. TC is actually going to be able to pressure some himself, and he's even bought a Batsy, and he has it turned on, so he is applying a lot of pressure to tier 1 himself. But Sneaking, perfect reaction. The unfortunate truth is that Beastmaster is so fast, he's 310 base move speed, comparative to a Vengeful Spirit who's only at 295. So once the smoke breaks, there's basically no way that you can catch him unless you get in range before he gets near his tower or is able to run directly away from the engagement, which is what he did. So nice reaction overall. Dignitas manages to not give anything away for free, and we're going back to some kind of aggressive play coming out from Liquid, but it's more so the fact that they really just want this tier 1.
Yep, and I like this call. And very often, and you and I talk a lot about it, and the decision-making that goes into when do you take a tier 1 whenever it's an uncontested, open lane like this. And if you're going to take it, why not take it at 2 minutes? Like, if you're going to take it early, like, if you're going to take it at 5, you may as well take it at 2. And go ahead, and they may not do this, but you can do stuff like push through to the tier 2, just to try and force a reaction, just to keep the other team honest, so they don't just go ahead and write that off and try to game plan around the fact that they're going to be missing 2 lanes. And we are going to see Universe go ahead and make his way over here now, but TC should still have great farm. He's almost level 5 already, 1,000 gold in the bank, going to be able to pick up his boots in one shot at about 500 gold, regardless of what decision he decides to make there. And down at bottom, Howie's certainly looking good as well. Right on the same par. 21 last hits, 20 for the Gyrocopter. He's got 1,200 gold in the bank. Tranquil Boots probably going to be coming out soon.
I think Tranquil Boots, either that or a Batsy, just because they want to try to push a little bit faster. And plus, they do have an Enigma, so once that Way 2 decides to actually come to the lane and try to apply some pressure, they're going to be able to push even faster than a Chen push. Like Eidolons especially, those things do some serious damage, 47 apiece once they get to level 4, and of course you have 6 of them because they split. So the push potential from Dignitas definitely there. They don't need to worry about necessarily losing a tier 2, or excuse me, a tier 1 so fast, but they need to keep it in check.
Right.
They can't just sit here and passively farm forever. They have a catapult now in the bottom lane, so I would expect Dignitas at some point to be applying some pressure to this. And Way 2 scouting, they haste Druin out for Sneaking as well. Everything is seemingly going pretty much according to plan for both teams, outside of the one fumbled gank by Liquid.
And they are going to go ahead and start auto-attacking the lane down here. In the meantime, that's going to prompt a reaction. Nope, never mind. Thought he was auto-attacking. He's just using Flat Cannon to farm up as quick as he can. And Dignitas with Way 2 joining them now, using his salve. And looks like they want to take this. There's a glyph that's going to be used. And usually when you see a glyph, it's not just to buy time. Usually you want to see some kind of reaction. And it will be Bulba making his way down with the Treant. So his Treant's not going to last long, though. And they're going to pull the creep wave back, but still, Dignitas should have no problem making this happen. So if they're just going to trade it away, they may go ahead and jump dropping. Bulba's still here. He's level 3.5, give or take. And wow, Fog just going for it. Chasing him down and going to get the Nightmare off. No reaction coming. Bulba in trouble. Eats the Lucid Beam, the Malefice, and our first blood goes on the board. Fog takes it via the Brain Sap. 1-0. Dignitas draws first blood in our grand finals.
That 20 move speed, man. That 20 move speed is pretty much the make or break. I mean, that's the only reason he was able to get a ranged Nightmare in the first place, is because they both had boots, but Bane Space move speed is just really, really fast, especially for a ranged hero. I believe it's 315, so yeah, he is quite fast in comparison to a Prophet. They get the tier 2, and the reason they get the tier 2 is solely because of the fact they glyphed the tier 1. And like you said, you typically see a reaction to that, and actually middle looks like Sneaking is actually going to die 1 versus 1 against Korok's Puck, so that's a kill on the board in favor of Liquid. But all in all, that's actually still favorable for Dignitas. Not, of course, that Sneaking ended up dying in a 1v1, but because they were able to get those 2 towers because the glyph came out so prematurely. And Dignitas knew. There's no way they're going to teleport somebody else to this lane. They certainly can't send the Chen.
Right. And
they can't send the Vengeful Spirit either, because she can't stop the push.
Right. Yeah, that was kind of what was weird. I mean, Bulba coming, you understand that that's basically the lane he started out in anyway. But you're not going to stop that. The push power of a Luna at that level, she did go the Bassy, as you had suggested, so they had that. It was turned on. And, yeah, I mean, it was a little weird. Bit of a lapse in judgment, I do believe. As is, though, it's 1-to-1. As Korok being able to pull off or kill off the Beastmaster by himself, pretty big deal in and of its own right. Beastmaster is level 6 now. And this is where you usually have a choice to make if you're a Beastmaster. Do you just focus on farming up and getting super tanky and just being this unbelievably strong anchor hero that can help the team out with his aura? You can get stuff like Necro Book. You can get stuff like a Blink Dagger, as you had suggested, which I think, given their lineup, would not be a bad choice whatsoever. Or do you go ahead and start moving around now? Do you go ahead and give this lane to someone else who's maybe hurting in levels, stick a support here, even if it's just for a minute or two, to let them catch up, get some CS while you go look for a kill elsewhere under smoke?
I think Blink is favorable just because it gives them initiation. Like, they don't have any. They have absolutely none whatsoever. They could go Necronomicon if they really wanted to on the Beastmaster, get some extra points into Inner Beast, and go for the heavy push. I think that's also a really, really nice choice, too, just because you already have Eidolons, you already have Luna with her Lunar Blessing. You can group up as 5, take these early game team fights because you have max rank on Lucent Beam right now. You have Eclipse, it's only level 1, but it's still really nice if you can utilize it in the proper situations. So I think Dignitas' team lineup is starting to come into its prime, and once Universe especially, or actually they have 3 heroes who could potentially make a mech. They have a Darkseer, a Beastmaster, and an Enigma. I don't think that the Beastmaster is going to be the one to make the mech here.
Beastmaster sitting on Bottle Wand and his boots. Still waiting to see what he wants to do. The rest, I mean, right now, both teams just kind of easing into things. And what the impression I get is they're feeling each other out a little bit. They're waiting, not necessarily to see a full-out concerted move by the other squad, but I mean, little things like Fluff. Fluff actually got a Bassy first before working on his Arc Boots or his mech, so has that up. That indicates to me that they're going to want to push. That indicates to me that they're going to want to be active pretty soon. Taking a look at Owie. He's already got his drums up. He's sitting just south of Gyrocopter's farm. He's got 51 to the 54 of TC, and TC is not slowing down, man. I mean, Luna sitting at 51 at 8.5. That is really, really solid, including the 2 towers they got especially. But TC still being a monster. He's already got up his phase. He has that Bassy, and he has 1,500 gold. We'll see what item he wants to pick up.
They can both farm, man. 2 of the best farmers pretty much in North American teams, period. Like, they are pretty much the premier carries in our particular region. So it's not really a surprise to see them both pretty much neck and neck at the moment. TC had a phenomenal game number 2 when he went mid on that Gyrocopter against Empire. Had some of the craziest farm I think I've ever seen, doubling the net worth of even his own teammates.
Yep. So
yeah, these 2 guys, they're going to get their farm, they're going to get their items, and then we're going to see some really, really nice team fights, I would imagine. I think Dignitas, though, they're going to be happy with playing the waiting game. Liquid has this team where they could potentially go for picks, they could potentially abuse or split push potential, but Dignitas are kind of not all in, but a lot of the emphasis on their draft is around those 5 versus 5 engagements.
Yep, that's kind of what we were talking about during the draft, and Liquid's very well rounded. They've got the late game potential of the Gyrocopter. I feel like both teams are going to be looking to hit a moment in time. They're going to be looking to execute at a certain time in the game. It isn't here now for either of them, but it all depends on how they choose to build their carries. So watching TC, what's he got on the way to him? He has a set of drums, so he is going a very stable build, not going to just rush out a Shadow Blade. Could still follow it up with a Shadow Blade if he wants. Would not mind if he just went straight up drums BKB, and I wouldn't hate that on the Luna either. Both of these heroes are very, very similar in the ways that you can build them, and she has picked up her treads, so she's got her boots ready to roll. But, yeah, I mean, it's all going to be dictated by what kind of items they decide to build and when they can really begin to get the most use out of those carry heroes, because the supporting cast on both sides are excellent. Liquid, though, with the Prophet, seems to me, if I had to pick a team that I think is under a little bit more pressure to start trying to make something happen, to be the first team to pull the trigger, with the Chen and the Prophet, I would say it would be them.
I definitely agree. There's no real way around it. You have a hero who, while Chen doesn't scale fantastically, he does okay in the late game. And the Prophet is more or less decided by how good of a game he actually has. He can vary from being almost a non-factor to being a huge factor, and especially Bulbous Prophet in the past, he has had very, very good Prophet games, even when he doesn't necessarily have the greatest start, like this situation. Of course, he's only died once, so it's not like a horrendous start by any stretch, but he's starting to get his farm now. He's able to hold the lane basically in place in this bottom lane for an indefinite amount of time. The only time this lane is going to push is when he decides that it's going to push. And being able to farm at a tier 3, get free experience, get free items, that's something that I think Liquid are going to be trying to abuse as long as they can.
Beastmaster will be going book. He's picked up the Staff of Wizardry as well as his belt. He's got a haste rune. He was taking a peek out, hoping he could catch Bulba, but Bulba not showing his face, as you said, much past those tier 3 steps. And compared to the last couple of games, man, this is a quiet game of Dota. We are at 11 minutes. We have a first blood and 1 return kill on the board. And that is, I can't even call it a return kill. It was a one-on-one kill of Puck against the Beastmaster. So these teams both renowned for their aggression and known for, well, that's a misnomer. Liquid, I would not say is renowned for it the way, say, an Empire is, but they are certainly known to be very good at it whenever they decide to reach down deep, show you a creative draft, run a creative offensive tri-lane like they did in our series earlier that we saw. Dignitas, again, and I've said this a few times about them, I've always just had pegged in my head and in their playstyle as a very reactionary team. They like to bait things. They like to make people commit to them, and then they rely on their communication, the fact that they are one of the better teams that knows how to move as a unit and communicate in terms of shot calling on the planet. And I don't think there's any debate about that. When you watch how well they respond to smoke ganks, how well they respond to dives, they just have a much tighter and cleaner look than almost any team I've ever seen.
It's really scary to watch, actually.
It
because
is.
when you see a team coordinate that well, you're like, how do people beat these teams? Like,
Yep.
You think about it in your head, and on paper, a lot of decisions in game, you can kind of get behind. You're like, okay, this makes sense. And then you hear the reasoning behind it, and being able to make those decisions in real time is, like, insane. It's very, very difficult to acquire that kind of experience, acquire that kind of knowledge through playing Dota. And that's what's exciting about watching these two teams, because a couple of months ago, you could say that North American teams weren't really considered the best, and Bulba, not having a good time bottom lane, going to get picked off by pretty much a brigade of Dignitas.
Yeah. I had the camera there.
There's a smoke bit as well.
Don't worry, you didn't miss anything. He was just dead to rights. He got roared, vacuumed, and peace out, Bulba. See you at the well. Now, the smoke out of Liquid still has a chance to make itself work if Dignitas drags his butt a little bit. And here we go. Mike's got his swap. There's going to be the net that's going to lock down Sneaking. He doesn't have Roar. Vacuum's going to bring the 3 together. There's going to be a coil that catches a couple. Now the Fiend's grip on Korok. They're going to try to re-engage. Hand of God used, and here comes Way2. Way2 doesn't have the mana for Black Hole. Has to back out. They're going to be able to clean up 2 in the meantime. That's 2 more kills going the way of Liquid. Now Bulba's there. He's grabbed his treants. Let's see what they want to do. They're going to go for Roche. Immediately used his call of Nature's Call, and moving now into the Roche pit, daring them to try to challenge it.
That was a really risky maneuver by Dignitas. You have a hero like Puck, you have a hero like Nature's Prophet. The reaction from Liquid can be fast, and it can be very, very painful, especially with that coil coming out. TC was even there too. He gets an Aegis now. He's gone for the Helm of the Dominator after his phase boots and his drum. So Liquid take a pretty substantial fight, honestly. Like, usually when you see 2 heroes die at roughly the 13-minute mark, 12.5 minutes, it's not that big of a deal most of the time. But just being able to catch them out in that position, having the smoke up, it was very fortuitous timing. Korok, in the meantime, might end up getting roared here. Could be dropping.
Will be roared and unable to phase shift. It had just come off cooldown just as he died. So good timing for Dignitas. They've got 4 heroes here. Looks like they're ready to push. Liquid's a bit spread out right now. Fluff still in search of that mech. He's going to have it very soon, though. He's only about 700 gold, 600 gold, give or take, away from it. Has enough to buy his headdress right this second. And down goes the tier 1. And we just saw right there, that tower absolutely melted. 15 more seconds on Puck. They may push through here and dare Liquid to come and challenge them. Now, the pickup of the Venge, you can't really question it. It is great because of the Aura. She does have the minus armor that helps with things like Roche as well, just team fight utility. But her ultimate at level 1 is next to nothing. So this is actually a pretty big weak point in Liquid's lineup, because that hero is just not feeling nearly as potent as she will once she has her second ring. Now TC is going to pursue this out, going to eat a brain sap, and Luna throws out the Lucid Beam, homing missiles on the way. The rest of Liquid moving through the jungle. They almost spot out the courier, but they won't in the end. And Dignitas in full retreat mode. Yeah, they're going to pop the buckler knowing something's up, and immediately TC uses a drum charge, and there's the swap. Managed to catch Universe, able to get himself just in range, and now the vacuum wall got everyone. The big return kill. That's 2 in exchange for 1. The Aegis is gone as well. TC back up and ready to fight. There's going to be a sprint, locks him in. Here comes Puck. Got the waning rift off, threw down the coil. Mike about to drop. He will drop. There's a roar right at the end. Owie and Way2 still alive. Way2 doesn't have enough mana for Black Hole again. Way2 Sexy continues to struggle on that hero, just never seeming able to get it together. And that's going to be a big return for Liquid. And Owie will be able to survive things, but with the creep wave and Shen's creeps, they're going to be able to take another tower down. Tier 2 top going to drop. They still have every tower remaining in the other lanes, but that was a very weird fight out of both teams.
They got really split up, like Dignitas. They get the return kill, they ended up killing the Chen, and at that point, 2 heroes Dignitas decided to just randomly run to the right-hand side with absolutely no way of support to be coming their way. So Tier 1 ends up going down, Bulba picks it off. They might actually be able to chase him because Aoi he has a Yasha and Drum, so he's very fast, but he's going to decide not to. TC would have been waiting up there on the high ground regardless. But if there was no Aegis for that fight, I think, honestly, Dignitas would have been in pretty good shape. Oh, but that Sprout actually catching in 2 members of Dignitas, the Coil and the Silence hitting 3, that was pretty much the end of it right there.
Necrobook, the choice for the Beastmaster, still sitting on just his Tier 1 boots. And we're going to see TC just go straight up lifesteal right now. He's going to have a lot of bonus armor when you're talking about... I mean, a lot of bonus armor comparatively when you're talking about the Helm of the Dominator plus the Bassi. So tanking up quite well against the right-click potential of Aoi makes a ton of sense. Aoi with an Aqualay as well of his own. So he's going to have the bonus armor from that, not to mention the agility from the Manta he is on his way to. Now, my question is he going to go Yasha BKB, which I think is a really nice middle ground sort of a build, or is he just going to go ahead and make the full Manta? BKB, by the way, going to be done on way too soon. And, you know, I'm not going to lay it on the guy. As you said, in the last time we saw him on Enigma, he didn't have many black holes, but hold on. We're going to have a Coil on Aoi. Bulba's there to sprout him in. Call Down's going to be there as well. And that's a dead Luna. And that's actually really slow on the reaction compared to what we're used to out of Dignitas. If they'd have pulled the trigger immediately, they may have been able to get there, but instead land just in time to retreat as Liquid looks to take another tower.
There's a bit of a lack of vision right now on the side of Dignitas. It's hurting them quite a bit. The only ward they have is middle, and that ward doesn't really see a whole lot of Liquid's movement at the moment. It's going to be able to spot out, actually not spot out, because IX, Mike, and Fluff are actually smoked up, going behind to potentially kill Sneaking right here.
And Sneaking in trouble. Blows the roar, but will end up dead, no doubt about it. Mech going to be used just in case there's a response, but there won't be. Now Drum Charge is thrown out. Mike going to be able to swap out way too, and Mike is dead on the money, man. I'll tell you what's impressive, and I was talking about the range on that swap. Look how short that is. The range on swap at level 1 is ridiculously short. It's so hard to catch someone out, but I'll tell you what's helping is the drums. The communication right now between Liquid is immaculate. The drum charges coming out of TC are always letting Mike get just close enough to get that swap out. And Venge, with her base movement speed being as low as it is, and just on Tier 1 boots when a lot of these heroes have Tier 2s now, I mean, Liquid is just really executing, and I feel like Dignitas is kind of knocked out of it a bit right now.
Well, they're just having these situations that don't normally arise in their play, like getting people solo picked. That's not something that is very indicative of Dignitas' normal style. They're usually really good about their movement. I mean, when they were playing against Empire, or excuse me, not Empire, when they were playing against Liquid earlier, it was a situation where they were behind for 25 to 30 minutes straight, and they very seldom had a pickoff, like if at all. So now, to see them behind like this and just getting kind of pulled apart everywhere, and Liquid just being the better aggressors, a lot of it is, again, due to that ward vision. That's why Aoi basically died in the bottom lane, but at the same time, you can't see anything on the map. So I'm not really sure what Aoi was expecting in that situation, but Liquid just continues to capitalize on the fact that now they do have that total map control. They can even potentially look to take the next Roshan. It's going to be up in about 5 more minutes. And I'm not sure if Dignitas is going to have as easy of a time turtling it out as they did before, because they're actually playing against a Gyrocopter who has that potential to push the base. You're going to have extra damage coming out from the Vengeful Spirit's aura as well, Chen creeps, and Nature's Prophet treants as well.
This is where things really get worrisome, is when you start to compare the inventories. Like, you've got Book 2 on Sneaking, that's not bad at all. You know, you look at Way 2, he's got his BKB done or darn close. He basically needs another 100 gold to have it. You've got Mech up on Darkseer, not bad. Then you start looking across the map. The carry items we're not even going to worry about. But Puck already has up a Blink Dagger. He's tanked up from the Ultimate Orb on his way to a Scythe of Ice. That Scythe of Ice is on pace to come out really quick if he doesn't die too much more. We've got the Mech up on Shen. He's also on his way to a Yule Scepter of Divinity already. And actually, he's already got it, and poor Way 2, man. I was in the process of saying this earlier, and we kind of got interrupted by a fight breaking out. When he's been able to get his black holes off, they've been high value. But for the most part, he just seems like he's out of friendly territory on that hero. He just doesn't seem like he's really on a hero he's all that comfortable with or experienced with.
It's kind of tough for him in this game, even harder, I would say, than it was in the previous time we saw him play that hero, just because he's up against Eventual Spirit.
Yep.
And Eventual Spirit is one of those heroes who's known for being able to sit in the back of fights forever and wait for the right time. It's very similar to how you would play a Shadow Demon. Typically, you're going to see defensive disruptions. Typically, you're going to see defensive swaps. So it's very difficult for him to play his game, especially because he doesn't have a blink. Nobody on his team really has the initiation power that they really are looking for right now. They can't go for picks. They're basically just turtling up right now, taking a defensive posture and trying to buy themselves time to where the point Aoi can actually take these fights and not feel worried that he can just get bursted down by Liquid's composition right now. And it sounds strange, but Liquid's lineup do have a decent amount of burst. Bulba even manages to finish up a Shadow Blade and 2,400 extra gold.
Yep.
And as I was saying, that one death hurt him a little bit, but he got that lane for what, like 5 or 6 waves straight? He pretty much completely recovered at this point.
And this is how Bulba plays Prophet. You are not going to see Bulba very often go a mech 4-staff Prophet. He likes his Shadow Blades. He likes his Scythe of Ice. And yeah, he actually has just picked up an Ultimate Orb to go with his current collection. And we're going to have Puck possibly engaged upon. Wow, able to Fiend's grip him. And now the follow-up, just going to roar it out. There's Hand of God, but not enough to save them. Bulba's in position if he wants to try something cutesy. And shows himself just in time to say, hey, I was here the whole time. As is, though, everyone makes it away safely for Dignitas. So now we're beginning to see Dignitas settle down a little bit, I think. Their movement beginning to feel a lot more deliberate, a lot more focused. The gold has leveled itself out. And before, when they made their big comeback, they were behind, but they weren't quite behind this much. It's just about 10,000 gold and almost exactly 10,000 experience. The advantage for Liquid, and we're just 22 minutes in. The good news is the farm rates of TC and Luna are at least in range of each other. Luna, actually, I checked that, and this comes back to something I talked about in a previous broadcast. Liquid is so good about just making sure that their ancients are always stacked. So when you see similar farm numbers, but then you look and the net worth of one is about 4,000 higher than the other, that's usually where that difference is.
Well, not only did they keep their ancients stacked, but Liquid actually stole Dignitas stacked ancients. Right. So it was like a double whammy. So their efficiency right now is through the roof. Both the Gyrocopter and the Nature's Prophet are leading the overall net worth. So the efficiency of their lineup is just so nice. And even with Aoi finishing up his Manta, I'm just not seeing how they're really going to be able to take these fights. And that's something that Dignitas lineup should excel at.
Right.
They should be falling back on things like Black Hole. You have Vacuum, you have Beastmaster Roar, you have level 2 Eclipse, soon to be level 3. They have the tools at their disposal, but they're just getting picked off time and time again. And because of the fact that Liquid are trying to exploit their advantage as much as possible, they've even decided to buy a gem on Vengeful Spirit, get vision, and basically revoke all map control away from Dignitas, or at least make them feel a bit wary about moving out. Sometimes you can see your opposition, you can say, look, there's like 3 people just sitting mid clearly right now, we can try to farm, but as soon as they go missing, Dignitas are going to have to immediately start falling back.
And let's see how Liquid wants to play this. Roshan's up, and I feel like they honestly could take this without much contention at all. I mean, obviously you're playing into their hands a little bit, and yeah, they're just going to go for it. And I really like how methodical they were about it. They basically just made a loop around here, cleared everything out, tried their best to counter ward. They didn't miss one here, but it doesn't really matter. And now they're going to get a free Roshan. And that Roshan died super fast.
Always dies fast when you have Wave of Terror and Vengeance Aura. The minus armor applies to Roshan, which is one of the key things in making sure that you can kill him fast. That's like the single biggest damage increase you can possibly get, especially when you have TC with Monsters Farm once again. I mean, he has almost got a full inventory, and it's 24 minutes in. Sure, you can upgrade the Helm of the Dominator, you can finish the Manta, but he still has a lot of farm.
Yep.
He's got 13.6k net worth right now in this very short game, and they could potentially just go for the base here if they really want to.
Yeah, I mean, Aui's going to be able to push. Don't think he's going to be able to push quite this fast. Liquid there en masse. If they want a base trade, Liquid happy to do it. The Glyph's going to be spent. And now the Glyph's spin on the other side, trying to keep the racks up. At this point, maybe just, now they're going to be forced out. It's just Mike who comes back, but we're actually going to see Liquid pull back here. I'm a little surprised by that. Here's the call down. Going to connect and catch 2. They're going to be able to roar out Korok. So Korok caught out once again. Korok's having a bit of a rough game. I mean, it's not the worst performance in history, sitting at 3-3, but certainly, I mean, 3-3 on a Puck, that's usually not going to be that good. Puck's a hero, should be able to keep himself alive, especially once it gets a Blink Dagger, but as is, Dignitas able to at least force Liquid back without getting a Rax. That in and of itself is a win.
It was a nice call from Dignitas, actually, to do it the way that they did, because if you think of it this way, the other team has an Aegis, you know the gyrocopter is quite farmed, so let's force somebody back and try to force the issue straight away.
Right.
Now, how nice would it have been if they actually had a blink on their Beastmaster? They could have chased straight away, they could have gotten maybe even another hero outside of just Korok, and they do manage to get a tower out of it as well. The tier 3 bottom ended up dying. Both Raxes take a very minimal amount of damage, but overall, that was the best case scenario for Dignitas. I don't really think you could have asked them to do it much better.
Very much agree. I mean, it's just being able to extend the game. And now Bulba actually going to miss on the Sprout. He goes under cover of Shadowblade. He blocked out Owie, though. Here comes TC and Bulba in the waiting. Going to contribute some much-needed right-click as they're able to make it happen. That's a very high-value kill, getting Owie off of the board for 50 seconds. 7-12 now. They still have that Aegis. And we can see, and again, this is one of those moments where you look at it, that's a nice blip up, the fact that Dignitas managed to make something happen for them. But that's really the best piece of news they've had in about the last 15 minutes. And, yeah, they've been behind, and if they're going to come back, they're going to have to start right now. There's the Enfeeble on TC, though. I talked about that during the draft. And you can just watch his damage soak itself down. And still be able to do a lot. Vengeance Aura certainly doesn't hurt.
No glyph. Pretty much free racks here for Liquid. They end up sending TC back to base immediately, so really nice coordination coming out of them. And they're going to be able to get a rebuttal kill. IX Mike going to be pretty sad about it, but ultimately, I don't think Liquid really cares that much. They get a Rax basically uncontended. They ended up picking off Owie because for whatever reason, Dignitas just overstayed their welcome and Team Liquid's side of the map for a little bit too long. And still, pretty much Liquid's game.
Only problem with Mike is he did give away a free gem there. And now we're going to start to see Sneaking put that thing to use. He is on his way to an Ags, it would seem. He's picked up his point booster. I don't mind that pickup at all, but just level 2 Necronomicon, I don't really feel that item's influence that much, at least right now. But then again, you know, Necro very rarely is it an item where you're watching a team fight and you feel it, you know what I mean? It's not like a call down or a vacuum. So, as is, Liquid maintains their lead, but the rebuttal kill, not the worst thing in the world. Being down a Rax, though, basically puts them on a timer. I mean, they're going to have right-click and spades coming out of the gyrocopter, as well as Bulba with his patented I'm going to build everything build. He's got himself a sight device now, too, which is very nice to have when you're up against heroes like a Luna. So they're going to have plenty of late game to fall back on. Dignitas basically all in on the Luna at this point. I mean, Beastmaster, she has a lot to help her out, but they have not put this mass teamfight sort of a composition to use or through its paces very well at all. I mean, it's going to show itself when Liquid begins to try to crack the tier 3s. But so far, I feel like that's really the big missed opportunity that has Dignitas in the position they're in right now.
Well, not only that, but Liquid just get 2 Roshas basically for free.
Right.
And how different would that team fight in the top lane have been if the gyrocopter didn't have an Aegis? What if TC didn't come back after he got vacuumed by that 3-man vacuum into a wall? That fight could have been completely different. But small things like that in the beginning of the game can have a pretty big impact, and just being able to get Roshans like that, take fights that otherwise you wouldn't be able to take. Dignitas have pretty much been on the back foot for most of the game. Pretty much. So the fact that they're able to turtle it out as well as they have been is a little bit of credit to them. But this game is like Liquid's decision making and their play overall has improved pretty drastically since the last time we saw these two teams meet today.
Totally agree. And Liquid looking very sharp. Here we go. Enfeeble on TC is going to eat a lot of damage. Lucid Beam, Brain Sap has him down to about a quarter health. That Aegis still in his inventory, though. Not sure how long it's going to last. Don't want to flash away. Should be a couple of minutes. They're going to go ahead and drop a ward that'll give me a chance to look. Yeah, it's going to be fading in less than 60 seconds. So if they want to use it, they need to use it now. And they're going to wait on another creep wave. If they decide to go for it here, they're going to be cutting it mighty close. We're talking 45 seconds at the most. And he may just go ahead and suicide right here. There's the vacuum, man. Puck's going to grab him as well. TC pops the BKB before the Aegis, actually. He's going to end up dropping and wasting the BKB. Way too. Still looking for a black hole, and Stutter steps in. He's going to be swapped back and killed. TC back up, going to be roared. Good patience on Sneaking to hang on to that. Mech plus Hand of God gets him back in fighting shape, though. We got 5 standing from Liquid. We got buybacks on the side of Dignitas. Korok going one-on-one with Owie right now. And the Necro Creeps chasing down Way2. And Korok actually going to be able to keep himself alive. They keep walking through the wall. Another good vacuum out of Universe. And Liquid doing a lot of damage to themselves, just constantly walking through it again, but it just doesn't matter. They're so far ahead that as the dust settles, they've got everyone left standing. And they're going to be able to take down their first set of racks, likely, well, they're going to be able to clean up the remainder of that range racks if they want. And at this point, I don't know that Dignitas has the firepower or the capability to get back in this. Probably talking things over before they call GG. Yep, there it is.
Yeah, no real surprise. I mean, Dignitas double racks. It's really tough to come back, especially against somebody like a Nature's Prophet. So that last fight for me, that went actually pretty good for Dignitas. If you think about it, Sneaking was going on TC after the Aegis had already been popped. He didn't have a BKB. He almost killed TC by himself. If anybody else from the team had given him any help at all, TC would have died right there. That was pretty much a situation where there was no focus fire. They weren't prioritizing their targets very well. TC, he is the biggest threat on the side of Liquid, especially after Korak had already used the coil, the Chen already threw out the heal, and they just didn't focus them properly. So what happens is, Wei 2 can't get a black hole off. Obviously there was a level 2 swap no matter what, so there's pretty much no way he could hope to do anything. But the fact that TC stood in a Midnight Pulse, tanked it, died, came back up, and nobody but Sneaking would try to take him down. I think that's pretty much what ended up losing him the last fight.
Very solid performance out of Liquid in Game 1. We can take a look at things, and the team's called GG, so I'm focused on the Ancient. I guess I'll pan over just so we can see this. And, yeah, it's all right. Just farm heroes. No problem. Now the Ancient will end up dropping. This is game number 1, if you're just tuning in and catching the conclusion of this. Game 1 of our best of 5 grand finals. Now, Dignitas does have a 1-game advantage inherently because they came out of the winner's bracket with Liquid coming out of the lower bracket. Liquid taking the long road to glory. And Dignitas really just rolling to this point. Now, these teams did meet twice, or have met twice today. This is their second meeting. The first time they met up, Dignitas and Liquid met in the winner's bracket finals, and Dignitas knocked Liquid down pretty hardcore. Sent them to the lower bracket, where Liquid was able to battle back and get past the defending champions in Empire and make their way in. Now they knot the series up, basically back to even now, Draskell. It's a race. More or less, it's a best of 3 now. Liquid making up the deficit and getting themselves ready to roll, ready to try and make a run here in the D2L Season 2 Playoff Grand Finals. I'm AC, joined by Draskell. We got Game 2 of this best of 5. Soon, well, basically a best of 3 now. Coming up next. Don't go anywhere, guys. Stick with us.